Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my top 10 predictions for this year's NFL draft. Now, last year I did a full first round mock draft. I'm not going to do that this year. Instead, what I'm going to do is go down this list and talk about what players I think these top 10 teams are going to pick in this year's draft class. So, without further ado, we're hopping into NFL draft next week. We're going to have a lot of draft coverage on this channel. I'm going to give a Panthers mock draft. I'm going to give a Saints mock draft, Cowboys, Cardinals, whatever it is, we're talking about it in the NFL draft next week. But first, of course, if you guys aren't in the channel, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn that bell on. Of course, we do our best to post on this channel every single day. Really quickly, if you guys did not hear the news, Auburn center Johni Broome is officially back with the Auburn Tigers for a 5th year, which is great. Cannot wait for us to be back. Preseason top 10 team right here automatically in my book. But again, we still got a long way to go to basketball season. Let's go ahead and talk about the draft right now, as we got a lot to get into within these top 10 picks. Alright, here we go with our number 1 pick. It is the Chicago Bears via the Carolina Panthers, of course, but we don't talk about that. Now, who I think Chicago is going to take, obviously, is going to be Caleb Williams. Just a quick little stat line for Caleb Williams. He had 3,633 yards, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and, of course, a QBR rating of 83%, which is not that bad of a quarterback. But we'll take a look at Jayden Daniels and compare that in a second. I just think Caleb Williams is the clear-cut number 1 overall pick. They traded Justin Fields, obviously, so they're not working with him anymore. With that being said, they're starting fresh. Caleb Williams is the clear number 1 pick in this year's NFL draft for the Chicago Bears. Moving on to our number 2 overall team, that is the Washington Commanders. Now, this is interesting because there's been rumors of the Commanders trying to trade back, but also keeping that spot if they wanted to draft a quarterback. Now, they're going to draft a quarterback if they go the number 2 overall pick, and that quarterback is going to be the Heisman Trophy winner from this past year, Jayden Daniels out of the LSU Tigers. Just a quick little stat line for you guys: 3,812 yards, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a 95 QBR rating. If you're asking me, Jayden Daniels should go number 1 overall via stat line. He also played better competition than Caleb Williams. You got to think that as well with the Pac-12 compared to the SEC, which the Pac-12 is no longer a conference. But regardless, Caleb Williams is going to go clear-cut number 1 overall. Jayden Daniels is going to be a number 2. I think that's pretty much set in stone. He should be number 1, but I think Caleb Williams is going to go number 1 overall. But Jayden Daniels to the Washington Commanders, book it in the draft. Moving on is another team that could potentially be trying to trade down in this year's draft. That is the New England Patriots. Now, if they're going to trade down, they're going to get a ton of draft capital. I believe they could still draft somebody like J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. if they wanted to, Bo Nix if they traded down. But I don't have them trading down. In fact, I have them drafting their quarterback of the future, Drake May. Just a quick little stat line on Drake May as well: 3,608 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a QBR of 79%. Now, with that being said, his QBR rating could use a little work, but ACC defenses, they're not really a thing. So I don't understand where those 9 interceptions came from this past year. I didn't watch a lot of this Drake May guy, but from my understanding, he can make really athletic plays, which, again, is why I have the Patriots taking him, because they need somebody like that if they're going to not have receivers to make an athletic play on the football field. So give me Drake May at the New England Patriots number 3 pick if they are going to stay there. Moving on, this one's got a lot of debate recently, at least from what I have seen. Now, it is the Arizona Cardinals at number 4. Now, with that said, what I mean by this has gotten a lot of debate is they could take 2 guys and they would still be freak athletes for them to take. Number 1 is obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. at the wide receiver position. But number 2, I'm talking about the other wide receiver in this top 10 draft class that I'm going over shortly, is Malik Nabers out of LSU. I would not be shocked, number 1, if Marvin Harrison Jr. was taken. Now, just a quick little stat line on Marvin Harrison: 67 receptions for 112 for 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, and an average of 18 yards per reception. Now, that is not a bad stat line, but to compare that to Malik Nabers, who had 89 receptions, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, and an average of 17.6 yards a carry, especially, again, competing in the LSU where the defense is, or the SEC, where it is really, really good. That's kind of what you want in preparation. So I'm not going to be shocked if Malik Nabers goes over Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft class. But right now, currently, I do have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the Ohio State University. Moving on, it is supposedly going to be the Los Angeles Chargers, and if they do, they're going to take Malik Nabers. Now, with that being said, I have them trading back. I think they're going to get a lot of draft capital from the Denver Broncos, who could trade up, and I think the Denver Broncos are going to draft J.J. McCarthy. That's a wild statement for me, but if you take a look at this guy's stats, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a QBR rating of 88%, and then 2,900 yards, 2,900 yards on the year. So, neither of these choices would be bad for the Chargers nor for the Broncos, but the Chargers could get some draft capital in that trade if they were to trade down, and I have them doing that to the Denver Broncos, who draft J.J. McCarthy out of the national champion Michigan Wolverines. Moving on, it is a team that is in desperate need of a certain position, and that team is, of course, the New York Giants. They are in desperate need of a wide receiver. Now, I know they got Jalen Hyatt. They have Darren Waller on that team who can kind of fit into a receiver role, but they still need a receiver, and with that being said, they're going to draft Malik Nabers out of LSU. Like I said, if Malik's there, or if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, either one, you cannot go wrong with this pick. Both of them are studs. Again, Malik Nabers playing in a conference with more defense is going to be a lot of preparation for the NFL. So with that being said, I have Malik Nabers going to the New York Giants, and as they are in desperate need of a wide receiver. Alright, moving on is a position that I don't know a lot about, and that is what this team is in desperate need of right now. The Tennessee Titans at the number 9. They're at the number 6 pick, and of course, I have them taking Joe Alt like a lot of other mock drafts have him. Now, he is the top offensive tackle in this year's draft class, but with that being said, they're in desperate need of an offensive tackle. The dude went to Notre Dame, so they have a very, I guess you would say, they have a great track record of producing very good offensive tackles. So with that being said, the number 1 offensive tackle in this year's draft class is going to go to the team that needs him best, in the Tennessee Titans. Moving on to our next pick, that is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I think that this is going to be a clear-cut one in Dallas Turner, the edge rusher, and we'll go over his stats right here. At 28 solo tackles, 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 0 interceptions. Now, an edge rusher isn't really going to get a whole lot of interceptions, especially when you play on a team like the Alabama Crimson Tide, who has playmakers all over the board, and you play in a conference like the Southeastern Conference. Now, with that being said, he is the best edge rusher in this year's draft class. There is no doubt, and that is what the Atlanta Falcons need, somebody to go along, another edge rusher in that already really talented defense. So give me Dallas Turner with the Atlanta Falcons drafting an edge rusher. I think it's pretty clear, but you guys let me know if you would do something different if you're the Atlanta Falcons. Moving on, it is the Chicago Bears again, not via the Carolina Panthers, but their own first-round pick. So they have 2 top 10 first-round picks this year, and I have them selecting a wide receiver, shocker, because they already drafted a quarterback, in Rome Odunze. Now, this kid out of Washington was really talented. He was able to make plays in that college football playoff game. He made some spectacular catches throughout the year, especially where they needed him most, and in the Pac-12 championship game and things like that. So with that being said, they're drafting Rome Odunze. Just a quick little stat line on him. 92 receptions for 1,600 yards, 13 TDs, and an average of 17 yards a carry. Now, when you play in a conference like the Pac-12, it's not going to be a very good. But this year, shockingly, the Pac-12 had some pretty good competition in it. So without further ado, Rome Odunze, you are a Chicago Bear. And moving on to our final pick, the 10th pick in this year's NFL draft. That is New York Jets and they are selecting tight end Brock Bowers. It is a position that they desperately need a guy at. Now, he was the best tight end in college football by far, and one of the really good pass catchers in college football as well this year. Playing at Georgia, obviously playing along with all of those really good, talented wide receivers that they have and quarterbacks that they had. But a quick little stat line for him, 56 receptions for 714 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an average rating of an average yardage of 12.8 yards per carry. That is not that bad for a tight end, and especially against the Auburn game, he cooked our defense. I remember watching that game clearly. But again, this guy is really talented. He can make plays. He's physical. He's very big. He's a big tight end. He can run. He's fast. So he has everything a tight end needs in that. He's 6'4", 240 pounds. Obviously, he is a very good tight end to have if you're the New York Jets, even with C.J. Uzomah, who he can learn behind. So without further ado, Brock Bowers, you are a New York Jet. Anyway, that is going to be all for today's video. If you haven't already, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, turn that bell on, as we do our best to post on this channel every single day. Tomorrow, you guys are getting a Franchise Friday. It may be pre-recorded, haven't decided yet, because my parents are home on Fridays. I really don't like recording when they're here. But if we got to do it, we got to do it. You know what I'm saying? And I have work tomorrow at 3 p.m. as well. So with that being said, I'm going to hop off, get this edited, so you guys can watch it on time. Once again, Johni Broome is back, baby. The Auburn faithful have hope, because we're going to be a preseason top 10 team. Really quickly, 2 things to highlight. Last night, the Atlanta Hawks got their butt kicked by the Chicago Bulls. Kobe White is a dog. I wish he was on my team if I were the Atlanta Hawks. But with that said, they did lose. They're done. Their season's over. Thank you, Hawks fans. Thank you, Hawks, for a great season. Now the Pelicans have to take care of business tomorrow, which we'll talk about. Anyway, of course, that's going to be all for today's video. Like, subscribe, turn that bell on. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.